Day 51, Chapter 12, page 174. Superficial believers will renounce the faith. The work which the Church has failed to do in a time of peace and prosperity, she will have to do in a terrible crisis under most discouraging, forbidding circumstances. The warnings that worldly conformity has silenced or withheld must be given under the fiercest opposition from enemies of the faith. And at that time, the superficial, conservative Ellen White here is not distinguishing theological conservatives from their liberal counterparts. She is describing those who put world conformity first and God's cause second. That class whose influence has steadily retarded the progress of work will renounce the faith. If Satan sees that the Lord is blessing his people and preparing them to discern his delusions, he will work with his master power to bring in fanaticism on the one hand and cold formalism on the other, that he may gather in the harvest of souls. Those who have had privileges and opportunities to become intelligent in regard to the truth, and yet who continue to counterwork the work of God would have accomplished, will be purged out, for God accepts the service of no man whose interest is divided. As trials thicken around us, both separation and unity will be seen in our ranks. Some who are now ready to take up weapons of warfare will in times of real peril make it manifest that they have not built upon the solid rock, and they will yield to temptation. Those who have had great light and previous privileges and have not improved them will, under one pretext or another, go out from us. The straight testimony produces a shaking. I asked the meaning of the shaking I had seen, and was shown that it would be caused by the straight testimony called forth by the counsel of the true witness to the Laodiceans. This will have its effect upon the heart of the receiver, and will lead him to exalt the standard and pour forth the straight truth. Some will not bear the straight testimony, they will rise up against it, and this will cause a shaking amongst God's people. There are those among us who will make confessions, as did Achan, too late to save themselves. They are not in harmony with right. They despise the straight testimony that reaches the heart, and would rejoice to see everyone silenced who gives reproof. The Lord calls for a renewal of straight testimony born in the years past. He calls for a renewal of spirit. The spiritual energies of his people have been long torpid, but there is to be a resurrection from apparent death. By prayer and confession of sin, we must clear the King's highway. Unjust criticism causes loss of souls. Even in our day, there have been and will continue to be an entire family who have once rejoiced in the truth, but who will lose faith because of calumnies and falsehoods brought to them in regard to those whom they have loved and with whom they have had sweet counsel. They open their hearts to the sowing of tares. The tares sprung up among the wheat. They strengthened the crop of wheat, became less and less, and the precious truth lost its power in them. False doctrines draw some away. So-called science and religion will be placed in opposition to each other because finite men do not comprehend the power and the greatness of God. These words of the Holy Writ were presented to me. Of our own selves shall men arise, speaking perverse things, to draw away disciples from them. This will surely be seen amongst the people of God. When the shaking comes, by the introduction of false theories, these surface readers, anchored nowhere, are like shifting sand. They slide into any position to suit the tenor of their feelings of bitterness. Not have received the love of the truth, they will be taken into the delusions of the enemy. They will give heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, and will depart from the faith. The enemy will bring in false theories, such as the doctrine that there is no sanctuary. This is one of the points on which there will be a departing from the faith. Rejection of the testimonies results in apostasy. One thing is certain, those Seventh-day Adventists who take their stand under Satan's banner will first give up their faith in the warnings and reproofs contained in the testimonies of God's Spirit. The very last deception of Satan will be to make of none effect the testimony of the Spirit of God. There is no vision, the people perish. Satan will work ingeniously in different ways through different agencies to unsettle the confidence of God's remnant people in the true testimony. The enemy has made his masterly efforts to unsettle the faith of our own people in the testimonies. This is just as Satan designed it to be. And those who have been preparing the way for people to pay no heed to the warnings and reproofs of the testimonies of the Spirit of God will see that a tide of errors of all kinds will spring into life. It is Satan's plan to weaken the faith of God's people in the testimonies. Next follows skepticism in regard to the vital points of our faith, the pillars of our position, then doubt as to the Holy Scriptures, and then the downward march to perdition. When the testimonies which were once believed are doubted and given up, Satan knows the deceived ones will not stop at this, and he will redouble his efforts till he launches them into open rebellion, which becomes incurable and ends in destruction.